Israel has many foes, but one ranks above everyone else, both in terms of hatred and capabilities, and that is Iran. From day one, Iran has been involved in this war. They reportedly plotted the Hamas attack. They're also behind the escalation in Lebanon, and now Tehran has issued a new threat. It has come from their supreme leader himself. This is what he said.
If these crimes continue, the Muslims will become impatient. The resistance forces will become impatient, and no one will be able to stop them. Israel and the West should know this. Don't expect others to let such groups do such things. No one can stop them when they get impatient.
And who are these resistance groups? Probably Iran's proxies in West Asia. Their foreign minister also hinted at the possibility. He talked about preemptive strikes on Israel, which makes you wonder, how serious is this threat from Iran? Is it just rhetoric? Or is Tehran willing to walk the talk? First, some background. Israel and Iran were not always enemies. In fact, they were friends until 1979. The Shah of Iran called it a secret love affair. All that changed after the Iranian Revolution. The new regime called Israel the Little Satan, the great Satan being the US. And thus began the Israel-Iran shadow war. Both countries are located more than 1,000 kilometers away. They do not even share a border, yet they are sworn enemies. Iran's Ayatollah was all praises for the Hamas terrorists who attacked Israel. He said he would kiss their hands. And since then, Tehran has consistently warned of an escalation, of a wider war. But what does this threat mean? Will Iranian soldiers fight against Israel? It looks highly unlikely right now, but Iranian proxies could enter the fight. These are armed groups spread across West Asia. They're funded and supported by Iran, and in return, they do Tehran's bidding. In fact, let's pull up the map for you. You have the Hezbollah in Lebanon, arguably the most powerful Iranian proxy. You have the Houthis in Yemen, the Liva Fatemiyun in Syria, the Badr organization in Iraq, and of course the Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza. These groups are all backed by Iran, and they could very well enter the fight. In fact, the Hezbollah has already signaled willingness. They've exchanged gunfire with Israel. They've also fired rockets at Israeli positions. Take a look at this video. It was released by Hezbollah. It shows them destroying surveillance cameras along the Israel-Lebanon border, and Hezbollah is not Hamas. They have more firepower and they have more men, which means Israel cannot take them lightly. But the Hezbollah will not act alone. Like Hamas, they will need the green light from Iran. So the question is, does Iran have the appetite for war? If you ask their leaders, always. But the reality is quite different. Iran's inflation is almost 47%. Unemployment is close to 8%. Their economy has been crippled by Western sanctions, so Iran may not want a direct war. Not unless they get support from allies like China. Plus, direct Iranian involvement could draw the US in, and Washington has some serious firepower in West Asia. Iran will think twice before taking on that. So while a proxy war is possible, a direct war looks unlikely. It's also never happened before. For all this talk, for all this enmity, Israel and Iran have never fought a direct war. And fighting one now makes little sense. Let me explain why I say this. Assume that Iran was behind the Hamas attack, or at the very least they supported it. Then their political objectives have already been met. The Saudi-Israel normalization has been paused. Israeli intelligence has been shamed. Benjamin Netanyahu will likely step down after the war, and the Abraham Accords have been discredited. So as far as Iran is concerned, it's mission accomplished. Anything beyond this would be a bonus, but a bonus that comes with a lot of risk. So Iran is mixing the rhetoric with some reason. Their foreign minister says Iran is not looking to expand the war, but that restraint cannot be one-sided.
Of course, the Americans send messages to us. Their message to Iran included calls for implementing restraint and not expanding the war. We respond to the Americans that we are not looking for an expansion of the war, but having restraint cannot be one-sided.
So a lot depends on Israel's Gaza operation. If it's a bloodbath, Iranian proxies could intervene. The Americans are also wary of this. They yet to blame Iran for the Hamas terror attack. Remember, US media reports have blamed Iran, but the US government says there is no proof. So a wider war is not inevitable. There is still time and ways to avoid it. What we need is rational leadership.